Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning. I wasn't quite ready. A little behind this morning, but that's okay. Hey, we got plenty to talk about today because we had elections last night. Actually, some of these races still going. So I guess kind of the big question mark, which was will the Republicans control the Senate or not, is still kind of up in the air, but it looks like it's going to be 50-50. So well, let's come over here and take a look. Wait, come on. Why am I not getting... Oh, maybe did I not turn on my audio bit here? Yeah. Let me fix that. Good morning, Rattleslove. By the way, Zach, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. By the way, for you guys that are subscribed, there's a few dozen of you. Remember that there is a members only Discord room. Oh, no. Okay. All right. So would like to do, actually would totally love to do classical music for the stream, but I don't know if that's royalty free. Okay. So let's just start with the treasuries. Pretty flat overnight here on the open. They are pushing down, bouncing off of 110 at the moment. And the S&P 500, well, I tell you what, they had a really good rally early in the day. Then they started to fall. I mean, I hesitate to say it, but I think that this move down in the S&P 500 was related to the crash that we had in Bitcoin yesterday. So Bitcoin, they were falling, and then there was kind of like a reversal off of, well, let's just come back. We were talking about Bitcoin yesterday, right? I know it's crazy that we're talking about them first, but so we had this big move down early in the day, and then it popped back up when they said that Binance was going to buy FTX. But then, like, as people researched and so forth, they kind of soured on it, and the cryptocurrencies went way lower, a low of 1,700, and since then they've just kind of drifted down. So a few minutes after this drop occurred, then we started seeing this behavior here in the S&P 500, where we started to fall down. But the S&P 500 recovered it, and overnight during the election, not too much volatility, mostly going sideways. And then over here we got oil taking a bit of a beating yesterday and overnight. Natural gas coming back down, which is good. It's come back to the prices it started at. Gold and silver still somewhat elevated, although silver's kind of giving up some of its gains. Silver was like a real outperformer. If silver and gold, so Goldman Sachs put a note out yesterday. I think that they were bullish on gold, especially when the Federal Reserve stops raising interest rates and or reduces interest rates. Gold and silver could like really explode, and there's like more demand from central banks and like third world countries central banks, I guess you could say. So man, if that really happens, silver looks like really poised to just like explode. Okay, then we got copper kind of mirroring all of those. Then we got to keep an eye on the dollar here. The dollar off of its highs, but heading up this morning, just coming shy of 110. All right, let's fix all that. All right, so back over here, I do have all those fancy DOMs up here for you guys. So I we'll keep it that way for a while. It's funny because I made a video about my workspace, and then it's like, oh, we made like a big change to the workspace. So maybe I'll just show both of those. I don't know. Maybe, nah, I'll just ignore it. But I do want to say something in it about the tick aggregation or whatever we call it. Tick compression, because tick compression is just so cool. Okay, so for the music, I want something more hype. What do you think? Yeah. But not that one, because that's the one that they always start with. Okay. Now, for news, we don't really have a whole lot on here. We have wholesale inventories at 8 o'clock. Wholesale sales. So, yeah. I wonder why you guys do any polls over there in the US before elections. It doesn't seem to work really well. That's not really the case. The polling that they've done has actually matched what happened quite well, actually. Now, I think that there's one thing that kind of happens though, which is like there's the polling, and then there's the way that the media chooses to react to the polling. So sometimes the mainstream outlets will ignore certain polls that are inconvenient to whatever story they want to tell. You don't remember that the news is really more about like getting clicks. So, you know, they push whatever it is that they think is going to get them eyes, and not necessarily whatever it is that would be the most useful to you. So even though all of the polling showed that Republicans were going to, you know, do really well this election, the polling was never quite that the Republicans were going to take the Senate. There was some polls that did start to show that, and then it kind of came back. And I think that the reality here is that the Democrats get out the vote machine on the ground is in Pennsylvania and Arizona in particular is still really good. And there's been some changes to the way that elections are conducted, particularly as it pertains to mail-in voting, that very much is an advantage to Democrats. So I don't know how the Senate comes out here, so let's come over to Politico. You know, Politico kind of became a liberal rag at some point, but I still think that they're the best place to go for the inside track on what's going on in politics. And I say the red wave, there wasn't. So you can see, like, I'm seeing things come in mostly in line with what the polling was the whole time, which was the Republicans would take the House and that the Senate would be really, really close, right? But how did they present it? As, oh, well, it wasn't as big as it was as it could have been. Okay. That's the way that they mess with it. But so you can see here, there's still like a few. Okay, so the ones that I think haven't been called is Kelly versus Masters. That this is the one I think at this point that I care the most about. Not because, well, the reason why I is that not Kelly versus Masters. That's the other one. So I think that they lost. Where was it? It was Lake. So I heard Kelly and I thought, no, I think that Lake lost, or that they already called it for the Democrats, which I think is like a huge loss for Republicans, because she was getting some good headlines. Like, she would have been a very potent person for the Republicans to have in Congress. Yeah. Poll results mean nothing in states where they wait to count mail-in ballots until after the election day and all the voting machines in the state go down. Yeah, so like there's kind of two takeaways that we can get from this. All right. So the first takeaway is that we're going to have a divided government, and we were always going to have a divided government, but it's going to be even more divided. Like, the Senate is going to be so contentious, okay? Because here's what's going to happen: the Republicans are going to come in and they're going to put up reasonable legislation that is popular with the public, but that the Democrats don't want. Like, they're going to say that office holders should have to pass a competency test, right? And the public's going to be like, yeah, that's a good idea. And even a lot of Democrats are going to say, yeah, that's a good idea, but the Senate will turn it down, or Joe Biden will vote it down, right? Or the Republicans are going to come in and say, we need a national voter ID, or we need like election integrity. And the Democrats and the public will be like divided, but marginally in favor of the Republican position, and the Democrats will vote it down. Like, that's what's going to happen. Okay. So, and in the Senate, it's going to be like, are they going to bring the bill up for vote or not? And they will just choose to not bring it up because it's the Democrats. And like, there's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be very contentious. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing is that Republican calls for vote integrity laws is only going to grow louder, because in the two states where things really came down to the wire and Democrats won and Republicans have pretty good reasons to be upset and or like question the results. So in Pennsylvania, there were a bunch of ballots that were sent out that weren't supposed to be sent out and were like not dated or whatever. So they're like invalid votes, and there's all of this contention over that. And there was like court cases over certain things about the laws, because the reality is that Pennsylvania is not following the laws that their legislature put down, because the judges in Pennsylvania keep ruling against it. And there's a court case going to the Supreme Court over that, right? Oh, was Lake for governor? Oh, okay. And then in Arizona, there was significant issues with the voting machines. There was like some printer wasn't working and it delayed voting in those precincts. And then they put in an emergency injunction to extend the poll times, and they shot it down. So Republicans feel like that not all of their people got to vote because of voter irregularities, right? I 100% agree. I've always been opposed to mail-in voting. Like, here's the thing. The mail has been a thing for like hundreds of years, and we never used it for voting. There's like a reason why we did that. I think that everybody that votes, that they should have to go and vote in person. I think that we have the technology to do it well. We have the technology to count them well. And all of these voter irregularities that we're having in Arizona and in Pennsylvania are absolutely unacceptable. If you go to Florida, they have figured this thing out. They said, oh, we're never going to be that state again. They've figured it out. They've fixed that problem. They don't have any problems in Florida. The results come out very quickly. There is no reason that that can't be the case across the country. And so I am 100% in favor of that. Okay. But in the meantime, yeah, the calls among Republicans that the vote isn't fair is only going to grow louder. And that's going to be an interesting and contentious issue. Are we going to continue to get, like, am I going to get banned for pointing out these voter irregularities for, because that's kind of been the thing, is that like, well, anything that makes people question the results of the election, we have to clamp down on, etc., etc., etc. Mail-in voting isn't as bad as we can count them until after. Why wouldn't you count them beforehand? Well, I tell you why you don't want to count them beforehand, because you don't want to influence other people's vote, right? So if you count them beforehand, even if you don't say what the result is, that just means there's a bunch of people that kind of know what's going on, and that could influence people's votes or influence the election. And also, it gives you a chance to come in and say, oh, okay, like, especially if you know all of the results. Well, yeah, you say no, don't release the results, but I promise you the results get out, man. Here's the thing that I don't think people understand is that a lot of the organization around elections is kind of like seat of your pants stuff. A lot of the volunteers don't really know what's going on. They just do what they're told, and stuff somehow gets to where it's supposed to. These aren't usually super highly trained people, right? And I guarantee you there's so many people that somebody will leak results. I guarantee you. And the campaigns are going to do everything they can to get those, because they can look at that information and see where they need to focus their efforts the most. So I agree with Brad. There should be one day to vote. We can do it in one day. We really can. It's absolutely, this stuff is just absolutely ridiculous. How is it that the more sophisticated our technology gets, the longer it takes to get our results? That's kind of bullshit, right? Just saying. And what is causing it? Okay, because this is the thing that pisses me off, is like, there was this thing on Reddit. They were like, remember when it took forever to get, voter results? Petridge Farm remembers that they did that meme. I'm like, no, it's never been the case. Okay, in presidential elections, that has never happened before 2020. Never happened. People will say, oh yeah, but what about Bush versus Gore? Al Gore conceded to George Bush on election night and then rescinded it an hour later. Okay, so even in Bush versus Gore, ever since there has been televised elections, the tradition was that the loser would concede on election night. And that went all the way up until 2020. Okay. But there's always been a lot of states that were like really, really close, and they, the counting went into the next day, or there was like recounts, that sort of a thing. Okay, yeah, so there's always been cases where there have been long voting times, okay? But don't try and gaslight the country into, this, that nothing has changed. The fact of the matter is that in 2020, mail-in voter access was dramatically expanded, and that is increasing the amount of time that it takes to get election results. I think it's bullshit. Yeah, then their emergency injunction to extend polling to 10 p.m. rejected. That's tech. Yeah, so I find that one a little upsetting, to be honest, because here in Utah, okay, they said anybody that's in line can still vote. Anybody that's in line can still vote, and they refused to release any results or anything until everybody that was in the lines had voted. Right? Evan McMullin still lost. Good riddance. I would have been super annoyed if McMullin is just a transparent, power-hungry monster. I can't say too much because the people that have these experiences ain't saying anything, so I'm not going to say anything. But I've met a number of people that had bad experiences with him. I'm glad that he lost. It's the last thing that I wanted was Evan McMullin constantly interjecting himself into the politics in the Senate and attracting attention to himself. And he's just a shithead, and I'm glad he's gone. So why didn't they do that for Arizona? Especially when there was issues at the polling locations with the equipment. It's just... Did it affect the final result? I mean, I would think that would probably have a minimal impact, but how can you know or say? The whole thing is there shouldn't be any question, right? You go to Florida, like, here's the thing, Florida went really, really well for Republicans, okay? And their election systems are done very, very well. You get the results very, very quickly. There is no question about the result. It was very, very bad for Democrats. No question about the result. That's the way it should be. There should be no question. Right? The only reason that there's any question is because people want there to be. That's the only answer, because we have the ability to fix these problems. Yeah, it was like 99% reported in 2 hours in Florida. It totally. Oh, yes. All of these mail-in votes being controversial came only with Trump appeals. Did you have a lot of problems before that? I don't remember. Okay, so Republicans have always opposed mail-in voting, or at least the hardcore conservatives have. Like, the whole thing is that to the average voter, being able to fill it out at your home and then mail it in is like so much more convenient. Okay, and I like to get my ballot beforehand and drop it off on the day of. Okay, but I've always been opposed to mail-in voting. It's always kind of been like a, You know, certain people oppose it, but like moderates love it, and so it gets in. Okay. The problem, what changed in 2020 was the number of states and the number of people that were allowed to do it expanded dramatically. Okay. So it used to be the case that like some states, a few states had it, and it was like a big thing. Like in Utah was one of the people that were leading. Okay. In Utah, we had mail-in voting earlier than other states. Okay. In some states, it was like only certain people qualified for it. Right. Or it was like in some states, it was like you had to request to get a ballot in order to do mail-in voting. And then they shifted, like here in Utah, they shifted it to every registered voter just gets a ballot. Right. So the change that happened in 2020 was the number of mail-in votes increased exponentially. That's what changed. So mail-in voting was always there, but like a much smaller percentage of people were using it. That's what changed. I can't believe Fetterman. I know, I'm surprised too. Although Oz is not conceded. In Europe, you know at 6 p.m. who's going to win at Super Accurate. See, the funny thing is that like if you go to Politico front page, right? We just had that pulled up here. Is any of that on the front page? Nope, it's all just, oh, it wasn't as bad as Democrats had feared. That's it. Absolutely nothing about the irregularities and the amount of time that it took to, right? So like there's this undercurrent. Republicans are going to be very upset about it. I'm guarantee you it's like what's on people's mind, and the media is going to ignore it, right? Because the whole we can't question elections. Well, I'm not questioning any elections. I'm just pointing out facts. Okay. I wonder here if we go to Zero Hedge now, they have any news stories about it. That's the same story that was there. The gold train has left the station. Of course, Peter Schiff's always pumping gold. Dude, Bankman, this bankrupt fried guy, he lost $26 billion. Like his fortune was worth $26 billion at one point, and it's worth 1% of that. You deserve it, shithead. It kind of pisses me off, to be honest with you. We always know, right? When you see somebody that comes out and they make tons of money real quick, right? And everybody's like, oh wow, this person, like they're so good, whatever. You immediately, you got to be suspicious about the results. Like the top performer, it is extremely more likely that they were just lucky. Okay, this is the same thing with Kathy Wood, right? She was lucky. She made a ton of money off of the Tesla thing, and then she went ham with it. And you can see like she's not a good money she's not a good money manager. They've gotten absolutely decimated. Right. And it wasn't just that like, well, okay, they're going to do poorly when interest rates are rising. It was like every decision she made along the way was a bad decision. Right. They were lucky. Yeah. She comes in and she doubles down on things and stuff. It's just hilarious. And she has absolutely no understanding of, I mean, to be running the kind of fund that you are, you'd have to have like a poor understanding of your impact on the market. Right. Like there's a reason that funds like that don't really exist. Okay. So when I'm hearing everybody praising this Bankman-Fried guy and saying, "Oh yeah, well he was just a algo trader at a bank and he went around and made a fortune in crypto," like you immediately got to be like, or maybe it's a Ponzi scheme or revolving credit sort of a door thing, and that's what it was. Is they were taking money out with this token and then getting loans against that token and using that to buy more Bitcoin and pump the price up. Like, it's hilarious. And then this guy was going around like basically admitted the whole thing in a podcast and everything, and was saying like, well, there are some exchanges out there that aren't, are quietly insolvent already. Yeah, it was yours, you shithead. Oh my God. I hope they throw the book at this guy. I hope that it's not just that. I hope they throw the book at this guy. You see, I was yesterday, Martin Shkreli was live on YouTube yesterday. Did you know? And I was watching it. It was kind of sad, actually, to watch. Because here's the thing. Martin is host. Because he was convicted of wire fraud. He can't do anything in legitimate markets, right? He can't go and work for a bank or issue his own securities or anything like that, right? But in crypto world where regulation hasn't caught up, you can still pull that shit. So you can tell he's planning coming in because he knew so much about the cryptocurrency market in that live stream, and he was like so focused on it. So you could tell, yeah, he was planning on coming out and playing the crypto game and making tons of money in crypto. And he's watching this and realizing that the game is up before he can even get started. Because with this thing, surely regulators are going to start stepping in more aggressively now, right? Yeah, probably. But on the live stream, he said, "Hey, you know what?" He was talking to these owners of these tokens, specifically I forget the name of them, Alameda or whatever they're called. He's like, jail wasn't so bad. This is just like, man, the one coin story. That's also maybe I have, I there's so many headlines that come through and stuff, stories that I read that I kind of forget and stuff, but the whole thing is just like, yep, this is why I kind of avoided crypto. But like, here's the thing. My indicator says 8,000. I mean, that's a 50% drop from here, but given the volatility in cryptocurrencies, that's kind of a hop and skip. Another thing was that we always said that like an 80 to 90% drawdown is not only possible, but likely in Bitcoin. And 80% would be 13,000. So I'm also watching that level. 3,000. Any people on your technical levels? I'm interested where you get 3,000. I mean, it's possible because if we do get down to 8,000, by that point, like the lower level floor is going to be actually lower anyways. So it's kind of a moving target, right? But we'll see if it actually happens. Like what I'm seeing right now in Bitcoin is kind of more like, I don't think that like the cryptocurrency community is like the whole hodlers are jumping ship. I don't think that people are coming in and like, going short and adding onto it too much. I think that this is more like the tokens that had to be sold and liquidated are being liquidated, and that's what's moving it down. So it may be that that's already happened, and we have another day or two of volatility, and then it just kind of settles there. So it may not get to the price target. But I tell you what, I'd sure be a lot more interested in the cryptocurrency story if it was actually at a reasonable price. What else can I say? The near collapse of FTX has severely shaken confidence in the crypto industry and will trigger tougher scrutiny by regulators, Binance chief Zhangpeng Zhao said after a day after orchestrating a rescue of the exchange's arch rival. Okay, so that's another thing. Is that the biggest controller of the cryptocurrency space is now fully controlled by the Chinese. So that's going to be another reason why people are going to be like, especially in the United States, are going to be like, well, we don't actually want this to take off, do we? In other words, we have to more seriously consider the scenario that Bitcoin has already hit its all-time high, or at least it's hit its all-time high for quite some time. Because it could be the case that you do get to a new all-time high eventually based on the, the happening. It's just, it'll be a really long time. Is there a use case for Bitcoin? Well, there was a use case for Bitcoin, but the technology isn't good enough to fill the use case. So, Paul Krugman, Democrats would probably have held both houses if Putin hadn't invaded Ukraine. Maybe. He's showing that the polling matches pretty. Oh no, it's not. That doesn't have anything to do with polling. That's just gas prices. I think it was more than just the price of gas. I think they were likely to lose the house regardless. Space cash. So like, if you can make a cryptocurrency that is 100% private, but you can still read the amount of money going through and categorize the money by category. So like, I think what it would have to be is like every wallet and transaction is private, but it can still be aggregated behind the scenes somehow. So like, I can still see how much money is in all consumer wallets. I can still see how much revenue was brought in by all discretionary companies, If I could do those kinds of metrics, right? That would be so powerful. It would be very beneficial to the market to be able to have that kind of high frequency data. That kind of high frequency quality fundamental data. I think that would be, it would just cause an explosion in research into the way the economy works and stuff. But I'm not sure how you accomplish that from a technical perspective. Biden advisors say they viewed the initial results as early stage vindication. Okay. So here's the other thing. Here's takeaway number 3 for the elections. Okay. When you look at the exit polling, voters were not happy. Okay. Maybe for different reasons, but by and large, voters were very upset about the way the economy was going. Well, here's the thing. It's not going to get better. Is Congress going to pass a law that's going to fix our supply side issues and bring inflation back and all that sort of stuff? Probably not. We're going to have an actual recession in 2023. That's what it looks like, right? And we're still going to have high energy prices. And the Saudis are still going to drag their feet, right? So this probably continues until Joe Biden's term is up, or Kamala Harris's term if they replace him with Kamala. I've seen a lot of people speculating about that, although doesn't sound like something that would be too likely. I digress. So what is this going to look like in 2 years? Like, if voters are mad now and nothing gets better, how do you think they're going to feel in 2 years? So this is just about the dumbest thing that I think the Biden administration could say right now is, oh, that we're vindicated. No, like the American people just sent you a big flashing red warning sign and you're still not getting it. They could pump up oil at least and keep it in the US. Well, the big conspiracy theory has been that all of the economic indicators and so forth have been suppressed, and that after the election come December data, that it will all be bad and that oil will skyrocket higher, etc., etc., etc. But So far, oil still continues to be kind of meh. So, should scroll back here, make sure I didn't miss anything overnight. Wow, Tether's largest customer was Sam Bankman-Fried. Really? Do you play chess? Not really. I guess that's something that I should have gotten into, but I don't really feel like I have the time right now. Maybe when my babies get a little bit older, I'll try and get them into it, and I'll learn it for their sake. Yeah, my stream overnight is mostly about the Bitcoin stuff. Nassim Nicholas Taleb. So far, the crypto plunge is like a slow train wreck, since the cryptidiots are too green, naive, and financially unsophisticated to realize that they are effectively bust. I think that that's basically the situation. That the amount of real money that's actually left in the cryptocurrency system is like practically nothing. Jeffrey Gunlock. If indeed democracy is on the ballot tonight, it follows that whichever party wins is perceived to be the defender of democracy. No. So I saw somebody say something about this that I thought was a really interesting take, and that was, if one party says that if you vote for the other party, you destroy democracy, then that basically means that you only have one choice. So democracy is defeated anyways, because there's no democracy when you only have one choice, right? Was the intro of no. So the Bitcoin futures on the CME were released in 2017. That was the top of 2017, yes, but you know, we moved much higher, right? Because the top then was 20K, and we got up to almost 69K in 2020. So, or 2021, I guess it was early 2021. So, not quite. I warn people, like, man, it's still like one of the most popular. Well, not very many people watch it, but so many people watched it that night when I streamed the Bitcoin futures going live. Man, I called it like on the nose. I was like, there's a really good chance that this is the top, because it was pumped up. People were buying up primarily because of the Bitcoin futures, and the end result of the Bitcoin futures are that it's easier to short Bitcoin. So we had a pretty good theory, and it ran through exactly. And I tell you what, something else, my indicator that I sell on patreon.com, it's still there. I don't really promote it as much as I should, but that's because I just don't really care to have a huge cryptocurrency audience. Okay, but it's been on the nose the whole time. Like when you look at this, what's happening? The entire 2020 rise has been washed out, right? The whole time the indicator said it's a bubble. The whole time the indicator said you never got back to a reasonable price to buy again. So, I mean, I guess you missed out on a thing, but then when it was like ready to pop again, it told you exactly when it was gonna pop. It's like the only mistake I've made is not trusting that indicator enough. But I took the trades that it said that it should, and it hasn't given another trade. So I guess I'm in the clear. And I guess the big question is going to be, if it comes down to my price now, do I actually have the guts to do it? Because I honestly kind of looking at this and I'm kind of like, I don't know if Bitcoin's ever going to come back up. I think that they're going to legislate it into oblivion. Well, let's not say I think, let's say I hope that they legislated it into oblivion, because I'm doing all this stuff reading for my Series 65 exam, and like I just keep looking at it, and it just makes me so mad that cryptocurrency people are these are basically securities, and cryptocurrency people are doing a run around the laws that have been in place for decades now. Just buy more garlic. I could start mining the garlic a bit more. My dad got really into the mining since 2020. He's even bought a couple of cards to like increase the amount, and he's been mining some garlic coin. So it would take a really long time for him to mine as much as I mined, though, because the garlic coin has halved like 2 or 3 times since then. Last night was not a referendum on Democrats' excellence and governance. It was a referendum on Republicans' lack of seriousness. Democrats will misread this and keep doubling down. So if Republicans get serious and drop the frivolous bullcrap, 2024 could look very different, says Ben Shapiro. Yeah, I think he's right. Well, I don't know how many of these were like they picked really poor candidates, but Republicans really have to do a better job at picking candidates, okay? Because what happens is they just kind of don't do anything. They don't go like, okay, we need to find a serious guy and like, you know, convince him to run, right? You have to do that. To like, here's the thing, guys. The people that probably should be in office are probably not going to naturally on their own want to run, okay? So you have to recruit them. And it starts at the most local level, where you say, okay, here's an open seat on the city council. Here's an open legislature seat. This person lives in that area and they would be really good. And you got to recruit them, and you're going to have to convince them to do it. And then move them up the pipeline. Okay. Because you can't have these ideologues like the Fetterman Oz thing. The reality of it is that if the other Republican had won the primary, he would have been a shoo-in. Wouldn't be even close if it had been the other guy instead of Oz. So I'm still super shocked that Fetterman won, though. Like, I'm super shocked. So market has kind of been a little choppy here, especially the treasuries. There was an initial down move, recovered it, and then since then we haven't done a whole lot of anything. And now a spoof is coming in here. This is exactly the kind of situation where like a spoof is a really good reason to not trade. You're gonna pull that sort of stuff, then you're just gonna get less, because there's absolutely no reason that an order like that should be popping out. Let's see here, more from Ben here. Culture war isn't frivolous, by the way. It's key, but it's the icing on the cake of competent governance and earning trust with voters. Yes, DeSantis, Ron, Youngkin, Glenn, icing on a bag of weird ain't gonna win you elections. Scott Adams says, what's more dangerous than having election results that don't match polls? I don't know. So here's the thing. First of all, I don't think that the election results are that far off of the polling. I know that there was some polling showing that the Republicans would make as many as 4 seats, but we were always kind of skeptical of those results. And the second issue is that I think that we have to acknowledge that there's some real challenges in running polls right now that do not make them very accurate guides. At least for the degree of margin that we need for, you know, these races, you were never going to get, you know, like the difference is like 4 Senate seats for the Republicans, right? But you're talking about a bunch of Senate seats where the Republicans were only going to win by like 1% anyways. So ooh, love it. Nice and trancy. Tell you what, even though we have a lot to talk about with the election, not really seeing a whole lot of activity. Markets are pretty quiet. Twitter is actually still relatively mild. I think part of that is because there's still a lot of races to be called, right? So here's wow. So Democrats pick up Senate seat with Fetterman win over Oz Networks on r/conservative 1.6K comments. Republicans had a lot of things to say. No more celebrity candidates, please. Yeah, thank you. Yep. So the top comment is people echoing kind of what I just said there, which is that they didn't pick a very good candidate. Yeah, and you're probably, he's just right. We're going to keep getting them just because charisma and looking and sounding good on camera are skills that transfer to politics well. Yeah. Who would have thought running a TV doctor who is overwhelmingly considered a joke wouldn't be able to win a hotly contested Senate seat? Republicans had every opportunity to win both houses, yet they ran awful candidates coupled with terrible messaging that should have been tap in for the R's. Was the Republican messaging that bad? Well, it wasn't nearly as bad as the Democrat messaging, right? No, this person says a lot of good GOP candidates in the House also lost their races. Yeah. The deeper issue here is that there just wasn't a red wave. A House popular vote will probably end up something like R+1 or R+2. For a midterm with Biden's approval in the gutter, the highest inflation in 40 years, and the crime and border situations being out of control, this is shocking underperformance from the whole party, which can't be chalked up to individual candidates. I think so. There's a lot of fear and concern among liberal circles that democracy itself. I think that that's all just a bunch of nonsense, though. And I don't think that a lot of people are really voting based on that. I think that there's a lot of, that there's just a tribalism, right? Like my take on this is that Democrats are going to continue to vote Democrat regardless of how bad the economy gets, right? But I think that people saying that, well, I don't know. I asked my dim friends on Facebook whether most of them said abortion. Yeah. Yeah, like the lot of them do care about the abortion issue. I'm not so sure how many people are actually jumping over and doing Democrat because of abortion. That's the other thing I think that the Republicans in the House should do. Like, these have to be really narrow laws, okay? And you might have problems with this one because there's always going to be some shithead conservative that's going to add amendments onto it to make it even more extreme. But if you make a law that is just no third trimester abortions without you know, with unless the mother's health is at risk, right? Easy win. Easy win there. Yeah, no changeovers. Yeah, but the Democrats are going to continue to vote Democrat regardless of how bad the economy gets. Because, like, here's the thing, is that number one, the Democrat Party has become, like the base of the Democrat Party at least, has become extremely economically illiterate. And then you have all of the politicians who will come up with all of these great excuses, like that inflation is only due to corporate greed, and they just eat it up. So as bad as things get, they don't recognize it as the only way this gets better is if you put some Republicans in that will do some supply side policies. That's why I'm saying, like, I guess we're going to have to sit here in doldrums for 2 years for them. Maybe in 2 years they'll think differently. Leave a like for midterms. I should be asking you guys to hit that like button if you haven't already, because it really helps the stream out. And we have some important things to say. You know, what we're saying about politics, that's just kind of like Seth really likes politics, okay? And sometimes it matters to trading. I think this is an instance where we really do want to understand what's going on, because not that it's like a tradable right now, but it's going to give you context for the future, right? But we have some important things to share about the nature of markets that we want to get out there. So every time that you guys hit that like button, it helps out. It really is. A like for this channel helps the world. Ron DeSantis is only 44. Oh, there you go. Anyways, I want to go back to this Oz lost because of lack of support in Western Pennsylvania, which Trump did much better in. I don't know. So a lot of people, well, like when I'm reading this, they're like, "This is such a huge blow." I think that you're all really becoming. You've been manipulated by expectations and media. I think that what happened today was pretty close to in line with what we expected was going to happen the whole time, that the Republicans would take the House, but it would be difficult for them to take the Senate. I don't know what the 2020 looks like. We should take a look at that. 2024 Senate map. Okay, the 5th of October. Senate Democrats face a brutal 2024 map with at least 8 undecided incumbents. Of the 33 Senate seats up for election next term, 23 are held by Democrats. Oh, man. They have to defend 23 seats to the GOP's 10, and many of them are in red and purple territory. At least 8 members of Chuck Schumer's caucus are agonizing over whether to run again, and a couple hail from states that may be lost to the GOP if the incumbent bows out. Manchin will be toast for sure. Nobody likes him anymore. I don't think Manchin will even run. He's probably one of those people that's like, let's see here. After cutting a huge deal on climate, healthcare, and taxes with Schumer, Manchin is now watching the 2022 elections before making a decision. Early polls show a tough slog in West Virginia, and the centrist is still seeking to finish the energy permitting bill he pushed for this year. Of his future, Manchin said, "I will do what I do in 2024 has nothing to do with what I do now." That sounds like he's not going to run. This story is from October 5th. So. Well, if I tell you what, if the Republicans don't control the Senate in 2024, then like, what good is the Republican Party? What good is if they can't take the Senate in 2024? Oh man, we're gonna run Trump again. I don't know about that one. So it is starting to sound more and more likely that Donald Trump is gonna run again. At the very beginning of all this, I said that he won't run again. They're gonna convince him not to do it. It sounds to me like he's isolated himself and he's absolutely convinced that he's gonna run again. But you know what? I don't think he's going to win. I think he'll run. If he runs again, that the Republicans will choose someone else. I really do. I think that last time around, the only politician on that stage that I really felt had the chops to defeat Donald Trump was the senator from Texas. And he was a slime bucket in that election. Man. Sorry, who are we talking about? Ted Cruz. Sorry. Ted Cruz was the only one with the serious chops to take out Donald Trump, and he wasn't ready for it. Like, he was constantly trying to make some sort of viral moment, and he just didn't have the interpersonal skills to do it. And then there was like some rat fucking and all this other, so a lot of people kind of like got really did not like Ted Cruz after all of that. I think that he's probably mended the fence with the populist side of the party since then. I don't know if he would be competitive this time. I don't think he would be competitive against Ron DeSantis, for instance. Right? But anyways, the whole point was that the Republican field actually ended up being kind of weak. Okay? And then on top of all of that, they just didn't know what to expect. And Donald Trump just totally ran away with it during the debates. At least the early debates. So now you come and you do this again, and it's Donald Trump versus Ron DeSantis. I don't think it's the same situation. I think that you'll have many more people anti-Trump because we've already seen how that kind of turns out, and we've already seen, even if you like Donald Trump, you kind of seen that it is kind of a weight around the party's neck and kind of hurts our performance overall. He's just too controversial, so a lot of people are just going to be against it because he's so controversial. And then I think that Ron DeSantis can put up a better fight, and there's probably a number of people that could put up a better fight than what they put up with him in 2016. And they're going to know what to expect from him from the debates and stuff. I don't think that Donald Trump is going to perform as well among Republicans as he did. But if we ran Trump again, like, here's the thing, that a map like that is so tough. Even if we ran Trump again and it really hurt the party, Republicans should still control the Senate. That's how tilted that map is, right? So we'll see. I think that the Republican primary, if a Donald Trump runs, will be much more harder fought than people think it will. Never, like, here's something that happens in politics that people don't realize, or it's people underestimate. Like, I think a lot of people, they see it in politics all the time, but I really think that we underestimate it. And that is the ability for a politician's fortunes to flip on a dime, right? So you can see Donald Trump, he's done so well and he had so much support and everything. And all he has to do is go into a debate and lose one debate and he's finished. Like, serious. So it could shift so quick. But maybe they still convince him not to do it. I can only hope. And you know what? Like given what happened last night and what conservatives are saying, I think that the calls for Donald Trump to just sit back and be kingmaker and to take the role more seriously, not nominate whack jobs, is gonna become much louder. So I hope he listens. Well, let's see here. The big snack that we had was a bid at 05, and since that time, we are in fact lower. So by a little bit, by about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ticks. Average size to move. Here's another one on Reddit. I talked to a moderate friend today who doesn't like wokeness, but he felt that the threat to democracy and creeping fascism was a bigger threat than wokeness. There's no creeping fascism. That's so stupid. The whole thing trying to compare Republicans to fascism, I think, is just so ridiculous. Dump Trump and then Trump will run independent and still a significant amount of votes? Oh, please, no. How likely? So let's say there's a Republican primary and Donald Trump legit loses. Would he run independent at that point? What do you think? Well, especially if he felt like he could make the case that it was stolen from him. He probably would. Oh man, that would be so not good. 100% if he loses the primary, he will claim it was rigged by Republicans to push him out, and he will take a huge percentage of the extreme right with him. It may be the death of the party for that probably would kill the party. think he should drop the stolen elections discourse and come aboard with Republican suggestions for ministry. What do you mean by Republican suggestions for ministry? DeSantis looks a lot more sympathetic and competent than Donald, but I haven't read anything about his agenda yet. Right. Well, I mean, that's kind of the whole thing is when you look at DeSantis, I think that the reason that people are high on him, it has more to do with that he seems like a he's good at the politicking game. Okay, the personality section of it, he seems to fit. So the issue that Republicans have had, or I mean, this is always the Republican issue, really, to be honest, is that the Republican candidates are usually not charismatic. Okay, Donald Trump being charismatic is like a real aberration. Okay, when you look at the Republican candidates of the past, I mean, like, come on, Mitt Romney, Bob Dole, you know, like, it just goes on and on. George Bush, I guess, was a little bit charismatic, but he was kind of a bit of a goof, you know. McCain, I wouldn't consider McCain charismatic, but he's not as stiff like Bob Dole, right? But that's just the whole issue, right? Okay, Ron DeSantis seems to be competently charismatic. So, yeah, the last charismatic Republican was Ronald Reagan, and he was a Democrat before, exactly. So, I think that that's a large part of why they like him. And I don't think that it's really the platform, but I can tell you what the platform is going to be. The platform is going to be that we need to secure the southern border, and we need to have supply side changes to the economy to deal with inflation. And there's another big issue that Joe Biden is just totally a disaster on, but I can't recall what it is at the top of my mind at the moment. The S&P 500 is trading to the downside, at least initially here. So I'm looking at this, and it seems to me that the tick compression changes what your cumulative delta ends up being. So when I come in here on this other chart and look at cumulative delta, it's never matching what my other charts say anymore. Imagine being Mehmet Oz right now and coming to terms with the fact that you suck so badly you lost to a guy who literally can't string together a simple sentence. Yeah, no, over 800,000 early votes were already in before that debate. Oh, wow. So here is a case where if early voting was not a thing, maybe Oz would have won. I think he's got a good point. Pennsylvania gets what it deserves. Yeah. I think we can finally say Trump isn't the kingmaker he thought he was going to be this year. That might be... these guys all really think that it's candidate quality, though. Treasury's on the downside pressure here again. We should keep in mind that we get the results of UK auction here in 5 minutes. Yeah, just like me though, it looks like people are really disappointed that Oz lost. Because it is like I don't know a whole lot about Oz. It doesn't sound like he's a good candidate, but Fetterman really shouldn't have won, right? The man literally had a stroke this year. I don't think that you should be putting them into office. Elon Musk eliminates Twitter's days of rest and work from home policies last week, pushing a 24/7 work culture. Well, you can be careful with that because the technology people that you need ain't gonna work 24/7. Okay. I'm just telling you now. The guys in tech are a little bit better on the work balance. It's not private equity. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Larry H. Summers has some comments on the election. I'm going to read those as we're more interested in his views on economics. Safe to say the I don't know if it's they lost the Senate. There's still like 5 races outstanding, right? And I think the way that it turns out, or they think is likely to turn out, is that it still ends up being 50-50. Now, if Republicans like lose seats in the Senate, then that's going to be a problem. Interestingly enough, though, at least on Reddit, listen, we can go to Patriots win and see what they're saying. But so far, it seems like that Republicans think that it was candidate quality that did them in. So let's see here. I wonder if we got a better place that's kind of tries to better say where it's going to come down at. Our Real Clear Politics is saying that the Republicans lost a net 1 Senate seat. So we got Arizona, Alaska, Georgia, Nevada, Wisconsin still to go. Okay, so they've lost 1 so far. I see. So they would have to pick up 1 among the 5 that are left. It looks like right now the Republican is winning in Wisconsin, although it's very close. The Republican is winning in Nevada, so that's 2. It looks like Warnock is winning in Georgia, though. And Kelly is winning in Arizona. And I believe, well, I don't know what the deal is with this one, but they're going to win Alaska. So I think the Republicans win 3 of the remaining. So that makes it 50-50. Yep. Yeah, the Arizona fix was in yesterday. The margin of error that I'm seeing there in Arizona, though, Kelly 51.4, Masters 46.4 with 67% remaining, kind of suggests to me that leaving the polls open was probably not the thing that what might have been closer, but it probably wouldn't have pushed him over the edge. Just kind of a guess, but well, after seeing quite a bit of selling initially, the equity indexes are turning quite bullish all of a sudden. And you know what? Even on like a conservative subreddit, Reddit's user base is not the same as the rest of the country. So like the Utah subreddit is insanely liberal compared to the state. It's just like so crazy. Wow. Gulliver, this guy on Reddit, talking about the Utah race. I got tired of Evan McMullen's effing promotional texts every day, and I voted against him strictly because he annoyed me. Yeah. Seriously. No, I wouldn't say that, Tobias. So Tobias asks, so political uncertainty not really supportive for markets normally? I wouldn't say that at all. In fact, markets tend to like, first of all, let's not call it political uncertainty. Let's call it a divided government. Okay. Business tends to like a divided government, actually. Okay. The government was divided through most of Obama's term, and they loved that. Okay. And that was always the narrative about politics during the Obama years, was that a divided government that can't really do anything is good for markets. Yeah, just like Uzi says there, the more divided, the less harm it can do. So So as long as the gist of it is, as long as Democrats don't control everything, they can't implement all of these taxes and so forth that would be bad for business. Okay, that's the take they tend to hold. Okay, the problem is the thing that's unique with this situation is that we are having a supply side inflation problem. And I don't think that the inflation is just going to go away. So like, my work is going to have to give me a bigger raise and bonus this year. Like they're going to have to give us a bigger cost of living increase than they normally do. They just have to, because otherwise the wages aren't keeping pace with it. And it's like, you've just lost 20-30% income because everything becomes so much more expensive. Okay. So when everybody comes in and demands these increases, right? That's not going to slow inflation down, right? So just be real careful. I'm hopeful that this CPI report tomorrow will be good, and that the worst of the inflation numbers are behind us, and that the housing inflation in particular will come back. But it's not just going to completely go away. And it probably is going to be the case. The Federal Reserve keeps interest rates high for a long period of time to allow things to normalize, right? So be careful about that one, right? So meanwhile, what is the thing that you can do to get to fix things and get the economy going? Well, you need legislation for that, and it's not going to happen, right? So that means that economically we do have a tough road ahead of us. 200, I do not make 200K a year. No. I make six figures, but only by just a bit. I guess I shouldn't be, I guess that's probably too specific, but yeah, it was like we went from making 100K a year to making like 70K. That's basically what the equivalent has been when you factor in all of the inflation and stuff. That's pretty nasty, right? If you don't get the wage increases in line with inflation. And it's going to be a problem because a lot of companies, and mine is the same, a lot of companies don't like to really give you much of a raise once they got you in, right? And so if you want to get a raise, you got to go to a different job. So it's going to be... Gen Z seems to have really come through for Dems. I don't... You know what, though, Uzi? I'm not convinced that it's the public school system that is making Gen Z Democrat. Really don't. I mean, I know that that's a thing that's going on in schools and everything, but I really don't think that that is the thing that kids, from my own observations, are influenced by. I think that kids are influenced by how else does an 18-year-old learn from their peers. I'm telling you, man. Telling you. What their friends say and what they read on social media is far, far, far more influential than what their teacher says. That doesn't mean that you should give up on, holding teachers responsible and all of that sort of a thing. But just know that you can fix the school system problem. Those kids are still going to be liberal. Because the problem is the culture that the internet engenders. So the internet really, when we look at it, and social media, what really comes out to me, and what I think the end result of all of this has been, is that people are just constantly bombarded by dopamine generating stimulus now. That's really what's happening. And so kids in general have basically wired themselves to seek dopamine, which is very contrary to the conservative way of doing things, right? So a conservative is going to say that we need to practice restraint and discretion. We need to think things through, etc., etc., etc. But what does the extreme dopamine stimulus all the time teach you to do? It teaches you to go for whatever feels good at that moment. And that's what the kids are doing. At least that's what I think that's the trap that I think my older kids are falling into. Is like, so I give you an example. Yesterday, we were going through the homework that he had to do, and he was very overwhelmed by the amount of homework that he had to do, in particular the math. He's like, oh, we have a math test next Monday and I'm totally screwed for it, right? And I'm like, well, okay, let's see how much. And he was like gone for part of the week because of band, so he has to catch up on the math, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look at your assignment and everything. I looked through the assignment. It was like an hour's worth of work. Okay, it was like write an equation and then graph it sort of math. Okay, so it was stuff that any of you that finished through high school math, you could probably complete the whole semester, the whole term's worth of work apparently, or like the whole section's worth of work, probably in an hour. And he was really mad and upset about it. I told him, like, you gotta remember, you are like this person inside of your mind, and there's all of these thoughts and feelings, but you are not those thoughts and feelings. You can choose to act on them or not act on them, and you can choose what is best for you. And society tends to not like strong outbursts of emotion, and strong outbursts of emotion can affect your ability to think and get the job done, right? So sometimes it's appropriate for that kind of outburst, but probably not in this situation, right? And you know, I was just like, well, I mean, he's a boy, and I'm not going to say that I was perfect at controlling my emotions when he was a kid, but at the same time, I kind of feel like that he's like he will swing to one side way too quickly, right? And I think it's because we're on the internet too much. So that's my argument, is that it's the internet that is making kids more liberal, not school. And that if anything, the school is reflecting the trends that the kids are doing, not the other way around. Which is to say, if the internet was prone to make you more conservative, and the kids were getting the conservative influences from the internet, and then they went to school and their teachers were all liberal, right? The students would shift that around very quickly, right? The schools are turning more liberal because the kids. So the challenge for Republicans here is always the difficult one, right? So you're going to have to teach people. You have to teach people why inflation is not just caused by companies being greedy, right? You're gonna have to teach them that you can't always just do what you want and what feels good at that time. That some of the ideas that are floating around about the way that families and relationships should work have been really harmful to society and are really hurting them, right? But that's the other thing that I think you're going to see, is that as these kids get older, you're going to see more men trend towards conservative and more women trend towards liberal. Well, I don't know if maybe more women will trend towards liberal, but these kinds of dynamics that are really causing a lot of men to feel jaded and bitter, they don't seem to be reversing to me, and I think that we'll just see more and more men go down that direction. U.S. wholesale inventories month over month. Actual spot 6, forecast spot 8. So wholesale inventories were not as high as anticipated. Nick Demiros, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate this week has been above 70%, 7% for the last 3 weeks, something that hasn't been seen since 2001. Applications for home purchase mortgages are down 40% on the year, the Mortgage Bankers Association says. You say that Oz conceded? I don't actually see that anywhere. At least not on any of my news squawks. Oh, okay, now I'm getting it from the Hill. Oz calls Fetterman to concede. Well. Tell you what, here on the treasuries, they sure are able to trade across that range awfully easily, aren't they? It's been both directions. For the treasuries this morning, especially in the 10-year, the cumulative delta is negative. So if they were to break out here at the high, that would be awfully contrary to what the volume has been so far. So that's worth keeping an eye on. But it doesn't look like we're going to be taking any trades today. Well, we've still got an hour left, so things could happen. And I think that we're in a situation where if something happened, you could get some pretty decent movement off of it. So I think that I need to stay focused. Did some news break? The dollar just jumped down. Well, it could have been on the wholesale inventories numbers. Less than expected. That might explain it. And again, Oz conceding there. I tell you what, whenever I get on Reddit, something that I see that I find really annoying in the trading community that we really need to fix, okay, is that everybody on the Reddit is concerned with traders that are profitable. Can you tell me this? Can you tell me that? Etc. 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 That the profitable trader is going to tell you or give you some revelation that is going to fix your trading and make you like them. You guys got to stop doing that, because those guys aren't going to help you. Those guys were probably just lucky, for all you know, right? You stop looking for what other people did and start looking for what can we prove about the market. That's the shift that needs to happen. Tobias says, I was very optimistic for the latest CPI release tomorrow, but I have no clue. Honestly. Well, let's see here. So if I come in and look at the, let's see if the projection has changed at all. Because it was spot 6, I think, right? Oh, sorry. Previous was spot 6 and the forecast was spot 5. So it hasn't changed. But the previous, this is actually, so one of the funny things that's happened is like, there will be like a consensus forecast and they'll beat it out and they'll beat it out and they'll beat it out. So then the consensus forecast will be higher. Like this is what happened. Which day was, which month was this? April. This is what happened both in April and in August. Is like, so then the estimates start to come in like where they probably should. And then the CPI like underperforms big time. So I wonder if that's what happens this time, is they're expecting 0.5 now, and then it ends up being 0.4 or something like that. Could be. But even if it came in line at spot 5, that would be really positive for the market. So I am quite optimistic about tomorrow. I think that they stand a good chance of getting a good number. Ugh. Well, the Treasury's coming up there to highs, not really accelerating, kind of being a little bit too chill about highs there. It wasn't like yesterday. Yesterday when we got up there, it was like, oh man, this is gonna they pop like a pimple. Nope. In fact, the bids below it are a little squishy. So not helpful. Plus, again, it's still like the move up is very much against the trend. Like this move, where we moved from 05 down to 110 even, that had a way more volume behind it than this move to the upside has. So wow, the Democrats smash red rave in Michigan. How did they do so well in Michigan? Is that just trending the other direction? I don't know. I'm reading the headlines. I really think this is like nonsense. That it's like the Republicans performed in line with what the polls have been saying all year long, and it's a searing indictment for them. Well, I guess on the plus side, we can say that like it's not like voters love the GOP either, right? There's some things that GOP's got to do, right? And so maybe this helps them figure it out, and some of the far right crazies realize that what they've been doing is stupid. Well, those bids were a little squishy. They only came back to 07. And maybe even forming an area here. We'll see. And the S&P did finally break out to the upside. After student loan forgiveness, 73% of borrowers plan to spend more on travel and dining out. Opinion: Ron DeSantis is the new Republican Party leader, probably. Oh. Okay, so I'm looking at the headlines. The only headline I've seen here is Putin will not attend G20 summit in Indonesia next week. That can't be what's moving him. Haven't heard anything on my news squawk. But for whatever reason, the S&P 500 just turned really bullish there, and the treasuries broke out big time. By the way, the bottom on the treasuries here was right about when the UK auction was. I suppose that it could be that the treasuries broke out there and then the S&P 500 liked that. That move kind of suggests news to me. And it was across the board. Like, look at the dollar is getting creamed here. Oh, okay. So I'm hearing that the Russians have been told to pull back from the city of Kherson. Is that what's doing it? Sure is soft below that spike. No, I don't like it. I don't know if this surprises anyone, but we've been told this for 2 weeks already about the Curzon thing. Yeah. Russia's Shoigu orders troops to pull back from city of Kherson. I do think that's the headline. So, like, that is good for Ukraine and that is good for the economy. I'm a little skeptical that that's enough to move the needle that, like, this little rally that we've had continues on. It kind of looks like that it's just creating a hole that they fall back into and that they're going to have a little bit of difficulty continuing to push from here. Seems like 4.13 wasn't a bad spot. And I need to keep an eye on the dollar here a little bit more closely, I think. We're definitely seeing some movement in the yen. Should have gone for it. Did you see where I was saying? I was like, I was thinking about it and I said, nah, I don't like it. Should have gone for it. Oh, the music that I'm listening to is from streambeats.com. It's their 100 Thieves hype playlist. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm a little concerned about them falling back into the hole and still having trouble. And so even them bouncing here, they could still like fall back. But yeah, I don't know. We'll just keep an eye on it. It's kind of forcing me into going short here. Like, so we're still quite a ways away from, well, where was it? It was 05. 05 half was that where the key breakout was yesterday, huh? So 10 half was kind of like yesterday's highs, or no, yeah, yesterday's highs. Overnight highs were way up at 15 half. So the volume is shifting quite dramatically here in the treasuries, that's for sure. So whether or not we continue to get impulse here, well, I guess we'll see. Well, now that they've come back to 10 in the in ZN, they're holding okay. Still looks kind of flaky though. Are we gonna get a flattener here? So if we push higher here in the treasuries, I'm gonna be interested to see which side leads the way. Right now it looks like the 30-year is gonna lead the way. Russia's General Surovikin says Ukraine continues attacking despite heavy losses, says we are successfully resisting the enemy's offensive efforts. Russia's General Surovikin says it's impossible to supply Kherson City. So they are pulling out. Is that really as significant of a... Oh, did my camera just die there? Really? Yeah, I guess so. I guess I didn't get it charged yesterday properly. I know it's kind of shifting around here in the treasuries, but I haven't seen anything too critical yet. It looks like the 30-year is going to push into new highs. So the 30-year leading the way so far. Twitter introduces gray official check marks for some accounts. What? To verify government accounts, media, and major brands. Oh. So a gray check mark is more important than a blue check mark then. Is what they're saying. Seth can't even dream to have a gray check mark, basically. The imbalance does look like in the buyer's favors, but it's not being terribly aggressive yet. And it does look like that the 10-year may have to push through a little bit of liquidity here too if they're going to get new highs. Stepping up to 10.5, having trouble getting a good bid though. You're gonna need more than 200 bid there to convince people to buy into 11, right? I don't think that 11's gonna pull. I think, oh, okay, 855 versus 1200 that was put there. And they do get it. Nobody hitting 11.5 yet. There we go. It's kind of been a slow churn here in the treasuries, hasn't it? Like it's grinding higher. You would think on that extension there that there would maybe be a little bit more excitement about it. Brannick and Barrett tweeting up a storm here about Twitter and Bitcoin and stuff. But let's see, our D.R. Norton, the nation's largest U.S. home building, earnings release. During most of the year, demand for our homes was strong beginning in June and continuing through today. We have seen moderation in housing demand caused by significant increases in mortgage interest rates and general economic uncertainty. Brannigan Barrett tweeting all this stuff makes me think that they got screwed on Bitcoin yesterday. Redfin will lay off another 13% of its staff and close its on-demand buying service, Redfin Now. We've tied up hundreds of millions of dollars in houses that you yourself wouldn't want to own right now. Oof. Okay, there's the treasuries pushing up again. And there's another little step up there in the 10-year. Mm-hmm. While the pressure on the upside continues here in the treasuries, but the other instruments haven't really done a whole lot here since then. The dollar is moderated. S&P 500 has gone sideways. And I feel pretty locked in at the moment. So that up movement really caught my attention, right? Yes, the cam is frozen. I don't know why my camera didn't completely charge, but I heard the sound when it died. There's another step. This just keeps grinding. What did I say the overnight high was? 15.5? That's still a good ways to go. That's still a couple good ticks up. And like that one, we barely got a basis point and it's already coming back on us. We never got it to print into like a target for 10 ticks, so. Oh yeah, the oil inventory is in 3 minutes. Good catch. So far on the day, oil just hasn't been looking so hot, right? Well, the good news about the camera being frozen is I can pick my nose and you guys can't see me do it. Just kidding, I'm not going to pick my nose. I might blow it though. I might blow my nose. No, so they come back there. This song is pretty, like, what is the term? Crunk? This guy is really good with his psycho bass. There's not very heavy body bass in this, but it still sounds low. Well, keep your eye on the far left here. Oil's gonna go wild. Okay, so it's a build. But then the distillate is a draw. So that might push oil lower, but it's a little... $3,925K versus $1,360K expected. That probably is going to push oil down. which generally speaking is going to be good for treasuries, right? Less concerns about energy inflation means that we don't have to be as aggressive about interest rates, and so the treasuries could move up. But I don't see any volume trading off of it, so. Oil is moving a little lower here, but it's super tepid, right? So. We getting stuck at 11.5. What do you mean? Could you please switch back dollar index to 5-minute? It is a 5-minute chart. Isn't it? Oh, it's a 1-minute chart. Here, I have one that's a 5-minute chart. Here's my 5-minute chart. Are you trying to compare it? So my synthetic one might be a little bit different from what you might see from like the dollar index futures, for instance, because mine is computed from the FX futures. So you might see slight differences, but okay, that was a good step up there, 12.5. At least it was able to step back up to the highs just as easily as it was able to drop there. Oh, you're saying it's too tight. Gotcha. We recovered that big move down, but not like the stuff that was leading up to it. Yeah, I just zoomed in quite a bit on it. Well, it seems that the pressure is still there in the 30-year at least. The 10-year has been a little bit more iffy though. Ooh, SPOO is dropping hard. What's this? Okay. So I'm hearing on the News Squawk a bond strategist saying that they have moved their forecast from 4.7, their terminal interest rate forecast from 4.75 to 5, which is basically in line with what the estimates have been. I don't know if that's what's moving the S&P 500, but you would think that would move treasuries. If that's what it was, that treasuries would be moving more than the S&P 500, right? So I do not know what that is about. Oh, I am seeing some pretty dramatic decline in Bitcoin though. So is the S&P 500 following bonds again? That's what's moving it. Oh, shoot. Yeah, my face is froze. My face is froze. Well, I'm not sure that this makes sense to do anything to the treasuries, but I just don't like the shift in volume that we had there. I don't like that I didn't get very much out of it, so I'm just going to take a small loser. So when bullshit in the cryptocurrency sphere starts to affect equity indexes this much, I really think that it's time that people step in and start doing something, you know? Because this is just we cannot make our economy vulnerable to such a completely unregulated, lawless sector, you know? You know, when we first started to see that kind of correlation come in because Tesla owns some cryptocurrencies, I don't know why it has like that now. Yeah, this drop in Bitcoin could keep coming. We're talking about, yes, it's always been about drama and retail moves. Yeah. Well, I mean, I do kind of wonder if the reason that yes is moving is because some robot has decided that there's a set correlation or something, you know. On that trade that I made, I'm really upset that I didn't take the 13 when I had thought about it, and then I took the 12. I mean, that was why I was willing to cut the 12 off so quickly, was like, it should just go and continue going. And if it's not going to do that, then I'm going to take it off. I maybe should have gotten to break even, but you know, I'm splitting hairs at that point. There's this guy in Discord that's just, he thinks these levels really matter, and he's yapping a lot, and everybody's kind of like, wow, we don't really care about your levels. But you're all still being nice, so we'd be good. We'll be nice to them. My level, you know, I wouldn't put my level at 8K as like a line in the sand or anything like that. It's just, it's like like, that would be like a fair price. That's all I'm saying. Oh. So they came back to 13. They didn't really give you a chance to get in at 13. I'm not on. It seems to be stabilizing here in the treasury, so I don't know if there's going to be a next move or not. I do kind of well, I was kind of suspecting that there could be a further move up, but the volume in the treasuries has shifted very quickly here. like that whole move up that we had here, the volume has been wiped out. So that makes it very, very difficult for me to justify a trade here at this point. I think that it's better that I just kind of sit on my hands now. I think I'm gonna get rid of my base here so we can see this down here, and I'll even put the Vista chart up, even though my Vista chart seems to be all screwy. In fact, the Vista chart's making it freeze. I think my Vista chart just made Jigsaw freeze. There we go. Seeing the dollar move. So now this is interesting that the dollar dropped there at like 8 o'clock. So that must have been, oh, well, okay. So this drop must have been the Kershaw news, and this pump must have been the Bitcoin news, huh? But I'm uncertain why treasuries would react to this the way I mean, if anything, wouldn't this kind of news mean risk out in the market, flight to safety, buy bonds? But that's not what it's doing. It's moving down for whatever reason. And WTI is sinking and moving down on that build that we had. Now, I tell you what, the move in Bitcoin very volatile too. They moved down $1,000 and then like almost completely retraced it, and now they're starting to head back down a little bit more again. Treasuries reacted maybe just because the dollar. Yeah, I think so. Well, and when you look at it like here, like the move down in the dollar correlated really well with the treasuries, and then now that the dollar is coming back, now the treasuries are coming back. They're not perfectly in correlation, but it does seem to be affecting them. But like when I look at the volume and the way that it shifted there, that kind of says to me that the flow that was pushing us to the long side was really not strong enough for a trade in the end. I mean, it was a good reason to take a trade, but it confirms my decision to exit quickly. At the top of r/science right now, attractive female students no longer earned higher grades when classes moved online during COVID-19. Man. Also on Reddit, Russia suddenly announces its readiness for negotiations, taking into account the current state of affairs. S&P 500 is chilling out. Treasury turn in there, dollar turn in there. 6J has been very correlated with the moves in the treasury, though. Leading it seems. So that kind of tempts me. Like, it makes me think, oh yeah, we're gonna go back up to the highs and it's gonna be game on, and that kind of gets me a little excited. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, no, I think that this is a little bit too fuzzy for me to take a trade. I'm gonna turn off that cumulative delta on ES because it's just not correct with the tick compression. Oh, so I didn't read this tweet from Brannigan. One final note, I panicked yesterday myself, not because I don't believe ETH, but because my trader job is to cut risk first, figure out stuff later. View this thread as an objective viewpoint about what has happened, and remember to always invest only what you can afford to lose. Yeah. That's what I was saying, where it's like, I wonder if they took a hit on Bitcoin yesterday. Unless you caught the break. Yeah, if I had taken 4.13 and then, you know, when it didn't quite hit my profit target, taking it off at 10, that would have probably been the best trade I could have gotten. No, Brannigan. That was Brannigan Barrett from Axia. Yeah. And then there's this big, so here, you want to read the whole thing? I swear I would never do one of these. A thread moment. This is why you should not panic in the current FTX crash. A thread price action speaks volumes. No, it doesn't. But Twitter, unfortunately, only shows half the story's sentiment. While market sentiment is rock bottom, it presents opportunity to look objectively at what has happened in the last 24 to 48 hours. In a nutshell, we have had a liquidity event. In other words, leveraged positions have been taken out. The market and current prices reflect this liquidation event. But, and this is where price action matters, if we look at the chart above, we have Ethereum, Bitcoin on the top axis, and Bitcoin one-day price change on the bottom axis. Two things stand out. One, early in 2022, we had a lot of volatility in crypto land. Makes sense. Fed was hiking 75 basis point, 4 meetings in a row, and inflation pushed terminal rates to 5%. In June, we also had the stablecoin collapse of Lunatar. This resulted in a liquidity event like yesterday. But no, Bitcoin dropped 4K in a single session. Why? For the exact same reasons as yesterday. Forced liquidations of speculative leveraged positions and a fear of contagion effects spreading to bag holders. Reality is June was a volatile month, but episode was forgotten by the time of July arrived. In the second half of 2022, volatility has been muted. The reason is simple. There are less speculative hands in the market and more long-term investors willing to accept downside. Okay, so that right there is a really big and dangerous speculation. The reality here, Brannigan, is that half of the money in Bitcoin is still fake. Yes, like it sounds like, oh yes, there are less speculative hands in the market, but I think you underestimate the number of speculative hands that have been in here the entire time. Okay, reading on, when you look at Bitcoin chart, it actually begins to look like the VIX chart spike and done. This matters. Now for the second part of my chart, my old favorite sentiment indicator. If you want to know the state of cryptocurrency land, follow the Ethereum Bitcoin spread. Why? Because Ethereum is the tech use case project and Bitcoin is the park cash for safety project. The reality is when the sentiment is poor, Ethereum underperforms, and when times are good, Ethereum outperforms. And this has been the way since COVID struck. Yet again, let's be objective then with this Ethereum BTC chart. Notice how the techie Ethereum underperformed all year into June as cryptos all sold off with the broader market. Suddenly, post-June, Ethereum began a strong trend of outperformance. This coincided with the strong bear market rally we had in general risk markets. So my point is this: yesterday was a scare, but Ethereum BTC was unable to test OCT lows. That matters. Okay, so the issue with that analysis is that what is driving the order flows in Bitcoin and Ethereum changes from day to day. And so just because Bitcoin and Ethereum hasn't made some new low or anything doesn't mean that like things are okay or there's less fear in the market or anything like that. It just means that the speculators were primarily concerned with BTC and that it primarily affected Bitcoin, not Ethereum, because of maybe what FTX was invested in. When we look at Bitcoin as a VIX comparison and we look at our favorite sentiment indication of cryptos, both are telling me to keep calm as this too shall pass. Yesterday was unsettling, but FTX's brokerage, not a technology use case like Ethereum. And one final note, I panicked yesterday myself, not because I don't believe Ethereum, but because Trader Brand. As a trader, my job is to cut risk first, figure out shit later. My view thread as an objective viewpoint of what has happened and to remember to always invest only in what you can afford to lose. Okay, so I'm gonna take a different take on this, okay? The real question is what does this mean for the future of cryptocurrencies? And this event for the future of cryptocurrencies is devastating. Most speculators lost hope yesterday and most won't overcome this PTSD. Yeah. So the bigger issue is this. The rise that we saw in 2020, what was the narrative through that whole run, right? The narrative through that whole run was, oh, businesses are going to start picking up cryptocurrencies. Funds and institutions are going to be buying it now. It's now a real asset class, and there's so much money to come in from Bitcoin that this can just run and run and run and run and run and run. Okay. Well, what does this mean? This means that money will never come, right? So when it was the Luna fraud, okay, after having such a big decline, and then you saw the Luna fraud, it was like, okay, yeah, like there's a lot of naughty players in the system, and that's going to happen, okay? This is the largest exchange with the most famous name in cryptocurrencies right now, going in the space of a day from $13 billion to $1 billion, okay? That is such a devastating hit to the confidence in Bitcoin. There is no way that any regulator or any fiduciary at a business can justify messing around with cryptocurrencies right now. This thing is going to get legislated into the ground. Any congressman that was kind of on the sidelines and was like, well, let's just kind of see how this thing turns out. We don't want to get involved in like kill innovation, all that sort of thing. Nah, that's all gone now. This is a danger to the public and they're going to do something about it. Because it was such a high profile individual. And here's the problem. The next problem, FTX isn't the only one. Remember, MicroStrategy just keeps buying. What happens when they're forced to sell their Bitcoin? Right? This can get so much more ugly, guys. I really, there's some people, they're like, oh yeah, buy the dip. No, I don't think so. And like, here's the other problem is the thing that's really been hurting Bitcoin, like higher interest rates. Guess what? Interest rates are still going up and they're probably going to stay there up into next year. So that doesn't help Bitcoin either. He's still rich though. Yeah. Like let's see him avoid jail first before we say something like that. Because what they were doing, somebody in there broke the law somewhere. It's just a question of who was it, right? So you know what kind of frustrates me is that when I got short here, the treasury, we were at like 9 or 10. And I didn't really get paid for it when I went. And so now they've come back here and it's still right at that price. But that doesn't really make me excited for it to break out to new highs, although it could do it, and I'll feel awfully like FOMO missed out if it does it. But this is just kind of subtly whispering to me that there's not much opportunity and this is not worth touching. Plus, it's time for me to end the stream anyways. Yeah, he started by arbing. But very clearly he did something else, and it's likely that a lot of his value and money that he had made was all a fraud. So I gotta tell you guys, in markets, when you see a trader and they've made crazy wins, okay, you should immediately be suspicious. The crazy winners are usually doing something risky and irresponsible and just haven't been caught yet. 800,000 ballots still out in Arizona, says Jack Pussybeak. Well, I don't know. There could still be some surprises for the election today, so stay tuned, folks. But I'm going to shut things down. I've got some work to do. I've got to learn about F5 Big IP. So I will see you tomorrow. The big event, CPI. It's going to be a mover. It's going to be crazy. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it's good. I really hope that it's good and that the S&P 500 can rally. Okay. Stay excellent, team.